commandments in the Torah that most people haven't thought of, or just are very rare Torah commands. And this is actually an introduction to these Torah commands. And when you come to faith and you start following Sabbath, and you start realizing there's all these other commands, I need to start following them, and you start eating clean, and then you start learning all the other commandments. And then you learn, wow, they've got this list of 613 commandments. Which, when you really look into it, you realize that Rambam wanted to have a number 613, so he added and moved things around however he had to, so he got 613 out of it. Now, I know at that time, the creator of the universe laughed or got mad to say, I probably have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 commands in here, and he's trying to limit it to 613. So, for purposes of this, I'm going to go through a few. And some things realize that we cannot do while we're in heaven. Now, that's actually an interesting thing, because right now, we're not able to do certain commands because we don't have a temple and we don't have a priest class. So we're pretty good at realizing, there's certain things we can't do right now. There are certain things we can do, and we're required to do. But we should all agree that the Torah is perfect. It doesn't need to be added to, it doesn't need to be subtracted from. He made it perfect. A definition of perfect would include the fact that he's not wasting his breath. Now, in Deuteronomy 13, we have a penalty for a town that turns to false idol worship. Has that ever occurred in the past? I don't think it has. I can't find any evidence that it has. Which means this is something that's going to happen in the millennial reign. Because it cannot happen when we're in heaven, because death is not an option anymore. So you can't go out and kill the town because people couldn't die. So that's one that can't happen while we're in heaven. So if it hasn't happened before, and I'm not saying it hasn't, I just haven't seen evidence that it has, but if it hasn't happened before, that means it's got to happen in the millennial reign, because he's not wasting his breath saying it. By the same token, we have issues like in cities of refuge, where you have to go if somebody dies. Well, in heaven, nobody's going to be able to die. So city of refuge, it's not that it's not there, it's just it's in abeyance because we can't perform it. So nobody could actually die to actually have to go to the city of refuge. But if you did, you would never come out, because the high priest, which is the Messiah, is never not going to be the high priest. So if you go to a city of refuge, you're there until well, in heaven, you'd be there for all eternity. But again, since there's not going to be death, I don't think we have to worry about that. There will be some things that will be placed on hold because we can't do them during heaven. That's kind of a weird thing to think. So it really looks to me like the majority of these, almost every Torah command can be done while we're in the millennial reign. And those that have not been thought about, such as Deuteronomy 13. Now, let's kind of go through it very quickly. And again, this is more of an introduction, but just one of these things there. Starting in verse 12, if you hear it said about one of the towns the Lord your God is giving you to live in, that troublemakers have arisen among you and have led the people of the town astray, saying, let us go and worship other gods you have not known, then you must inquire, probe, and investigate it thoroughly. And if it is true, and it has been proved that this detestable thing has been done among you, you must completely put to the sword all who live in that town. You must destroy it completely, both its people and its livestock. You are to gather all the plunder of the town in the middle of the public square and completely burn the town and all of its plunder as a whole burnt offering to the Lord your God. The town is to remain a ruin forever, never to be rebuilt. And none of the condemned things are to be found in your hands. Then the Lord will turn his fierce anger and will show mercy and will have compassion on you. Okay? So, if I haven't seen that happen before, he isn't wasting his breath telling us about it. So that pretty much tells us it's going to happen in the millennial reign. Some of the things that we think, wow, that's kind of out there. Now, is this in the 613? You know it's not. Okay? But it's a Torah command. So I'm going to try to bring out through this series some Torah commands that most people just don't think of. And including, and I may just say it for this purpose, for the thing, when we go back to the land, when we cross the Jordan before the Armageddon War, we have to build a pillar and put lime or plaster, same thing, and we have to inscribe the issues there for the Torah. That's a Torah command. It's never discussed. Why is it not discussed? Because it should basically only happen twice in life. The first is with the first Exodus, and the second will be the second Exodus. That's us. So that's a Torah command that will apply to us. Will it apply to those after us? Nope. But for us it should. So, these are little Torah commands, but they're still Torah commands. And because they're Torah commands, we need to learn about them.